Okay, so last time we created some elements for the menu scene, the ability to select the level, but I want to discuss how I made the description of the towers and the enemies. So let me first show you what I did. So I have this. You can select the level, see the towers and the enemies uh, in that level, and then I created this area here where you can select the unit and you can see what it does. So we'll look first at how I did this. Um, so these here are buttons, and when you click on them, I change the name of the unit, I change the icon and the description when I click on one of these. Now for the name and the description, those are just TMP texts, and I have an array of the names of the towers and the enemies, and I change those the name and the description using arrays. But for the icons, I have to create objects for each icon because let me show you. Because the woodcutter unit has two sprites, so I cannot use an array. I have to create uh, these icons are objects here in the scene. Let's look over the code. We already discussed the code for the select level panel. One second. So first of all, I separated the towers from the enemies. So those buttons, when you click on them, those are two types of buttons. One that changes the icon, the name, and the description to an enemy, and the one that changes to the properties of a tower. So I have a list of the tower names, a list of the tower descriptions. Same for the enemies. I have an array of the enemy names and an array for the enemy descriptions. And then the icons, I separate those two into tower icons and enemy icons, and these are game objects that are already in the scene. We just enable and disable those when we switch to a different unit. We have the text, the name text, unit name text, and the text for the description. And for this, I created two functions that we attach to those buttons. They're almost the same, but one for the enemies and one for the tower. So we can look just at one. We make a parameter here. This represents the index of the enemy. So we know which one from the array we selected. The first thing that we do is disable all icons. And because we do not know if the current icon is an enemy icon or a tower icon, we disable both uh, the enemy icons and tower icons. And then we enable the one that we want. And then we update the name of the name text and the description text. And this here is the same, but this is for towers. So with this one, we select an enemy from the enemy array, and with this one, select the tower from the tower array. But the code is identical, almost. So that's actually everything. Um, I had an idea for a tower that we can make a wizard that shoots lightning and stuns the enemies for a very short amount of time. So for that, we'll switch to the uh, games in here. First of all, I have to import something, the lightning effect. Also, we can add sound effects to the buttons in the menu later. Okay, I'll just like a prefab of a tower. Unpack it so it's no longer a prefab. Just say in this wizard. And excuse me 1 second, I'll be right back. Uh, I want to do two things today. One is we'll create a wizard tower, and after that, we'll create a system for the enemies to spawn. Uh, so here, the first thing we want to do is remove the plant script. And we'll create a wizard script here. Let's go to the scripts, towers. Now I have to think which enemies does this attack. Let's say it attacks 3 random enemies. Okay, we have to change the graphics for this. Because right now this has the graphics of the plant tower. Let's find the house sprites for the wizard. Make sure it's split correctly first. Yes, it is. Let's see the attack animation as well. If it's split, yes. Let's drag 1 frame of that idle animation here. It's a bit too big. We'll size that. Change the collider on this. Okay. Let's see what else. We have to change the animator. Or create an animator control here. Add that to our animator component. Now we can create our animations for this. We'll just have the idle and the attack animation. Let's start with idle animation. We just drag and drop our sprites. Select all of them and just drag and drop them here. We have an animation. The speed will be too fast. Something like this. So the attack now. How it looks. Maybe faster a bit. Something like this. Okay. Now we go to here to the animator. We want to make sure that after the attack animation, we go back to the item. So create a transition. We want this to wait for the attack animation to finish and then go to the idle. So here in exit time, we'll put 1. So that means we wait the whole animation and then go back to idle. Okay. We have to also select the position. Oh, never mind. We can remove this. We don't need the position for the projectiles because those spawn on top of the enemies. Let's create our lightning effect first. So we'll just make a sprite here. Say wizard let's see it first. Okay, looks good to me. First thing we do, because it's pixel art, we change the filter mode here from bilinear to point. So that means we see each pixel of that sprite. We have to split it now into multiple sprites. We can either split it by size or we can split it by how many there are. It seems that it's 64 times 64, so we can split by size. Okay, in here we want a couple of things. First, let's go back to this image, and we want to put the pivot on the bottom. Okay, let's see. It works automatically. That would be great. I think it's okay. Let me explain that. Yes. What does splitting the sprites do? So if you double click on this, is just one image with these multiple frames of the animation. So we split it basically in multiple images. That's what we do here. So you can either you can split it automatically, which is not recommended because usually the sprites will be of different size and centered differently. So you want this to be of equal size and centered the same. So either split by size, so you know the exact size of each frame of the animation, or you split it by how many there are. In this case, I happen to find the size, which is 64 pixels times 64. Now let's go back to the lightning object. You have the sprite render. Let's add one frame of that animation. I should add this one just to resize it. So something like this. Now we need an animator because we have an animation. Let's make an animator controller for this. Oh, wait. Let me strip. I can drag that here to our animator. So basically, an animator controller holds multiple animations, and you can create interactions between them, transitions. I mean, okay. Now create animation. Very simple. Again, we drag our sprites and drop them here. Now, if you look here, we have that. Maybe it's too fast. Something like that. Good. Now we want, after the animation is finished, we want to delete the object from the scene. We have a script with a public function that destroys the object instantly, and we can put that script here on our object. And now we can go to the animation, and on the last frame, we can create an event. So an event is a public function. We execute some code at this frame of the animation, and we select our destroy function, and this will destroy it when the animation is finished on the last frame. Okay, we can save this as a prefab now. I'll just drag and drop it here. Now it's a prefab, can delete it from our scene, and we can create our script for the wizard. Now the towers have, all of the towers have the tower script, which has the properties that they have in common. So let's select one that's similar to our tower script. Actually, I'll go to the plat script. We'll copy some stuff from here, which is the same. Very similar. We have an attack speed for the wizard. We do not have the point where we spawn the projectile because the lightning will spawn on top of the enemies. So we'll copy just this part here. Enemy layer. So that way when we sphere overlap, we target the enemies only. Let's see. And then the lighting prefab we want. Let's say public game object. So prefab means saved object. In the start function, we want to set the attack counter to 0 and get the components that we need. Same logic here. If the tower is not active, we stop the code. So here update means every frame. Whatever is inside here happens every visual frame. We'll copy everything. And here we change this stuff here a little bit. Because for the plant we raycast to the right and hit the enemy if it is there. We don't need this, we delete it. Here we want to circle overlap. So we want to get all the enemies that exist and then select 3 random from that. If there are 3, if there are fewer, we attack fewer. Then so first we have to find all the enemies. So find all the enemies. We'll make an array of colliders, and we use the overlap circle with overlap. Oh, physics 2D, my bad. Physics 2D overlap circle. So what this does, it creates a circle for one frame and gets all the colliders in that circle. Where would we spawn this? We spawn it at the position of the wizard, so transform position. Radius, so how big it is, will give it a ridiculous value. So it finds all the enemies, and then the enemy layer, we target only enemies with this. So we found the enemies now. Now there are 2 cases. There is one case when we have 3 enemies or more. We have fewer than 3. We want to know how many enemies we attack. Yes, find how many enemies we can attack. So I can say integer number enemies. And now we check. We say if collider's length, so the length of the array is bigger or equal to 3, then the enemies will be 3. Number enemies here. 3. But I don't like that this here is an array. I'd like this to be a list here. Let's see if we can make a list instead of an array. So list collider 2D. Does it work? No, it does not work. It's no problem. We can create a list. We can convert this from an array to a list. Let's see. How do we do this? Okay, let's say list collider 2D. But actually here we can also get the enemy script of these colliders. You can make a list of type enemy instead of colliders. So how do I name this? Oh, yes, of course, enemies. Okay. Equal new list of that. So this will create an empty list in that variable. And we have an error because we have to import this system collection stuff here on the top. Okay, now we'll add one by one the enemy scripts from the array of colliders to our list. So for each, let's say for each collider 2D collider. So this is used for each to go through each element of an array or a list. Now we add the script from each one to our enemies list. So enemies dot add, and then we say that array. Oh, sorry, that collider, that component enemy. This will find the enemy script on the object. Okay, now we have all the enemies in a list. So if there are more than 3, we attack 3. Else, if it's more than 3, the number of enemies will be the length of that array, but not array. Let's say list, the list of enemies. And it gives us an error because for list we say count, not length. Okay, now we know how many enemies we attack, and we'll select 3 random enemies from that list. So we'll create another list. Let me comment this. Select 3 enemies, or not 3 actually. Select random enemies. Depends how many. Depends how big that integer is. So let's say random enemies. First we create an empty list, type enemy. Oh, I guess new. Now for the number of enemies, this integer, select one from our array, I mean the list of enemies. We add it to a random enemy list, and then we delete it from the enemy list. So for integer equals 0 to the 0 to the number of enemies plus plus. So here we select we have to create first a random index. So we'll say integer random index equal random range. This will create a random number. We want this to be from 0 to the length of that list for enemies count. And then we add that we add the enemy at that index to our random enemies list. So let me comment this. Create random index. I have to remove that. So that way we don't select it again next time. So remove you can say enemies remove that. That will remove the value of that specific index. And that's it. This will find random enemies. Now we have a list of the random enemies we want to attack. In here we attack those. Attack enemies. Random enemies. So again, we go from 0 to the number of enemies. But we can say random enemies count. We spawn the visual effect at the position of the enemy. So instantiate limit spawn on the lightning prefab at the random enemies I. That's the index, and then transform that position and quaternion that identity. That means no rotation, 0 0 0 on the rotation. Okay, so we spawn the visual effect, and now we damage the enemy. So here we also need damage property. Yes, we need a damage property. So because this is an array of enemy scripts, we can use the get hit function. We say damage. So here we deal the damage. That should be everything. Let me review the code a little bit, make sure it's correct. So we count time in the attack counter variable. If it's time to attack, we reset the counter. We get all enemies, the colliders of all enemies here, and then we create a list of the same enemies, but of type enemy. So the script of the enemy, list of the script from the enemies. Okay, then we decide how many enemies we attack depending on the length of our enemy list. So if you have more or equal to 3 enemies, then we attack 3 enemies. Else, so that means if it's smaller than 3, we attack how many we have. And then we create a random list. We create a list of enemies, of random enemies here. So we go from 0 to the number of enemies. We create a random index, we get the random enemy from that list, and then we remove it we add it to a random enemy list, and we remove it from the original list. So that way we don't get the same enemy twice. We attack different enemies. And then we attack those enemies. So from 0 to the number of enemies, we spawn the visual effect and we deal the damage, and that's everything. Now it's time to test it. I'll duplicate this guy here. Let's say we'll try both cases with 3 or more enemies, and then with less than 3. Make sure this guy does not move. Also, we have to set some stuff here on the wizard. The attack speed, let's say 2, damage doesn't matter right now. Is at the lightning prefab and the enemy level. There's one issue, which is those enemies are not stunned at the moment. So we have to create the logic for that. Let's do it actually in the tower script. We can do it in, the enemy script, not the tower script. Let's do it in the enemy script here. So what we want is the stun takes time, so we have to use a coroutine for this. So coroutine is like a normal function, but it's used for processes that take time. So you have to wait some time in a coroutine. For example, this line of code here means wait 1 visual frame. You can wait frames, or you can wait an amount of seconds. Let's say you get stunned. Let's say we want to know the duration. So it's very simple. We stop the movement completely. But there is an issue here. Which is we do stop the movement, but we do not stop the moving animation. Let's keep it simple for now. We just stop the movement. So here we should have a move speed. No, we do not have a move speed. That's an issue which we have to fix, because right now the enemies have the move speed on their, because like the towers, the enemies have 2 scripts. They have a enemy script which has the properties that they have in common, and then they have a separate script which has the specific behavior. So we want to move the move speed variable from the specific behavior to this one here, because the problem is we want to call this function the stunned effect from the enemy script, and we cannot do that because we don't have the move speed here. So let's fix that. I'm Where am I miss? Where am I mixing? Oh, here. Yes, that's possible. I don't know. Understand? Uh, it's spelled. You might know better. Okay. So let's go to the specific behaviors of these guys here. Um, so let's start. So you see, we have the move speed here. We want to delete it from here. Move it to the enemy script because all the enemies will have that move speed. That's the pick here as well. Let's take that here. Delete it. Now I have to change the code a little bit. So wherever we use this move speed variable, now we have to say enemy script that move speed instead of move speed. Okay, that's fixed here. Also here on the angry pig. Okay, we fixed that. So now we can change the move speed. Well, there's also one more issue, which is the rigid body is also here on the specific behavior. So I'll take that from here as well. Delete it from here, move it to the enemy script. And then we have to also get it here. And place it in the variable from the enemy script. So I'll delete that also. Here at the start we get also the rigid body. Now I have to change the code where we use the rigid body. Why does this not work? Wait. Oh, it does not work because this has to be public. So to access a variable from another script, you need to make that variable public. Okay, now we should not have that error. Yes. Also change it here. Wherever we use the rigid body, let's change it to enemy script rigid body. Same for this one. And now we can create our get stunned coroutine. Very simple coroutine. We first stop movement completely. So the linear velocity x, let's say just the x because those enemies only move horizontally. We say 0 velocity. So stop movement first. Then we wait the duration. Wait some time. So yield return. So this will wait for an amount of seconds, which is the duration variable. Then we set the velocity to the move speed again. So enable movement again. This has to be with a minus here, move speed. And the reason is we move to those enemies move to the left, not to the right. So minus move speed. That's actually everything. Another thing we want to do is we want to make sure that these coroutines do not overlap. We don't start two of those at the same time. So let's create a bool for that. Private, we don't need to access it from another script. Let's say it's stunned. By default, we say it's false, so it's not stunned. We'll make a function that starts this only if we're not already stunned. Let's say, oh wait, yes, public void. Let's say start get stunned. We also want the duration here, float duration. So we check, well, first we have to enable that, we have to set this bool to true when we start the coroutine. And when the coroutine ends, we make it false again. So when we start this, we want to check if it is not already running. So if it is, well, I realized that we can use a coroutine variable actually. So that way, if it is if it is stunned, we stop the coroutine and start a new one. So let's use a coroutine instead of a bool here. We'll call it stunned coroutine. Delete that. So now we can delete this. So we say if that coroutine is different than null, so that means if it is running, we stop the coroutine. Okay, and then we start it again and save it in the variable. So now we don't overlap this coroutine. Okay, now we can go to our wizard script. Here, when we deal the damage, we also stun the enemy. Stun the enemy. And please let me know how much time do you have. Also, we want here another variable, which is the stun duration, how long the stun is. So we stun. We also specify the duration of the stun. Now we can. Sorry about that. Please let me know how much time do you have, because I want to know what to do next, depending on that. Are you still here, Mel? You have 2 hours. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We can discuss a lot of stuff then. So we have the wizard script. Let's give the stun a duration, something like 0.5 seconds stun. And now it's time to test it, see if it works. We also want to test with more than 3 enemies and with less than 3 enemies. Make sure it works both. Oh yes, I made a mistake actually. Wait. Here. Well, I actually like to do this at a specific frame of the animation. So we want to deal the damage and spawn the lightning at a specific frame of the animation. So we can say here, we can make a function. We can say public void attack. Random enemies. And we can copy this code. Except this part here, set we don't. So instead of doing this in code, we'll do it at a specific frame of an animation as an event. So to do that, we also have to enable that the attack animation. So when it's time to attack, we set the counter and we enable the attack animation, and this code will happen at a specific frame of that animation. So animator, we have the animator here. Yes. Play. I think it's wizard attack. Okay, now we have to paste this function that does the attack on a specific frame of the attack animation. But after we finish this, we can create a system for spawning enemies. Excuse me a second. Sorry about that. Uh, yes, we have to place that function. We have to place the function on a specific frame of the animation. Okay, let's see which one it is. We can just drag this and place it exactly when this stuff happens. Let's say here, place an event, select the wizard, the attack function. Now we can test it. Okay, so the attack animation does not happen for some reason. Let's see why that is. It may be because of the name. I don't see why this does not work. Wizard attack. I think I spelled this correctly. What's the problem? I don't know what the problem is. Okay, let's see. Let's check some stuff. Let's see if the transition is the problem. No, it's not the problem. We have the animator here. We have the wizard controller. I don't see why this does not happen here. Oh, it does not happen because the tower is not active. That's the issue. Because normally we spawn those towers using those buttons here on the bottom. By default, they are not active. And the exact moments that we place them, those are active. So we have to create a button that uh, uh, to, a button to use to purchase the wizard and place it. So first thing first, we drag and drop our wizard in our prefab folder. We can delete it from the scene. We'll create a button that spawns it. First, we go here to our game manager, give it a price, add it to our array of towers. Now we can create a button. We'll just copy paste another one that's already there. I change the name of this. In here, we change the index from 4 to 5 of the function that spawns the tower. We also want to change the icon here. Change the size of it. Okay. Okay, that should be everything. And let's see. Now when we purchase it, it will be enabled. Why did I click that too fast? Yep. It works pretty well. There are always still different enemies. That's good. But the pivot on that is incorrect on the lightning effect because right now the sprite sort point is in the center. We want this to be at the pivot. So if we do this, we should see it on top of the enemy, not behind the enemy. That's one way to fix it. We can actually just change the render layer completely. Let's hope this fixes it. Nope, it did not fix it. Let's see why. Okay, we can fix it by changing the layer. But first, I'd like to see the layer of the enemies first. It's 0, so we can place it on 1. Also, we'll have to resize this tower side. It is still a problem. It is still a problem, you see, because it spawns at the center of the enemy. We want to spawn it on the bottom. So what we can do is we can change the code a little bit on the enemies. So we can go to the enemy script here and create a variable that will represent the bottom of the enemy, which we can put here right after the sprite element. You can say public transform, bottom transform. Now we have to create an empty object as a child on these enemies. And I said bottom transform because we might use it for multiple visual effects. Because I could have called it stun transform or something, but I'll call it bottom because we might use it for multiple effects. Now we can go to our enemies. So let's start with the cucumbers here. And we'll create an empty object here, say bottom transform. Okay, now we select it in the scene here, place it on the bottom. This. Same for the, and place it on the script, in the enemy script here. Okay, now for the angry pig, we do the same. Put it on the bottom, add it to the script. I have to change the code a little bit on the wizard. When we spawn that lightning, we spawn it at the bottom transform of the enemy. So here, when we spawn those lightning, we don't want the transform position. We want the bottom transform position. Okay, let's test it one more time. And after this, we can make a system for spawning the enemies. I'll try to keep it simple. They will just have a spawn speed, and some of them will start spawning after some time. That will be the system. Okay, let's see. Yes, now this spawns correctly. But I want to change it a little bit. One thing is the size. Make it slightly bigger. Also, the animation is a bit too fast. Actually, let's see the animation. We can simulate the animation here. The animation done. We also have to add some sound effects for this. I do not have sound effects at the moment. We also have a reference of that's you can ignore that error. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Now let's see if they get stunned. Let's see if they get stunned. So we select these enemies and enable their behavior, which is they just move forward. And when there's a tower in range, we stop and attack that tower with an attack speed. We have no attack speed. Let's see if it they get wait, we have a problem here. We have a problem. Oh, I see. Well, I just realized because right now we moved the rigid body from the specific behavior to the enemy script, but we can actually have that in both scripts. We can have that in both scripts. We don't need to have it in just one place. So I can say here rigid body because the issue is this script of the enemy happens after the specific behavior, and when we try to give it speed, this rigid body is empty. So what I'll do to fix it, I'll add a rigid body here as well. Okay, and we can delete this enemy script. We can use the rigid body from here. Now I just have to find where it is, and that is where we use it. Seems to be everything. Same for the angry pig here. We could have fixed it with a render, or the I mean not render, script execution order. We could have changed that also. Well, I prefer having the rigid body here. That should be everything. Or now we should not get that error. Okay, time to test. I should probably show you the towers that we have so far. We do still have an error somewhere because well, this guy's not moving. Um, oh yes, of course. I made I made another mistake, which is uh, I forgot to give these guys a move speed, because when we move the move speed from the specific behavior to the enemy script, it resetted to 0, so we have to give it a value. But not from here. Let's do it from the prefab, so that way all of these in the scene are affected when we change the prefab. Now they should move correctly. Yep. Now hopefully this guy stuns them. Yep, they do get stunned. Yeah, that works. That works. Now it's time to make the system for spawning enemies, which will not be that complicated. We can delete all the enemies for now. Okay, we'll make an empty object. We'll call it enemy spawner. This will be very simple. It spawns enemy with a cooldown, and it starts spawning enemies after some time. So let's make the script for that. Excuse me a second, let me drink some water. Okay. Now this can work in multiple ways. We can either spawn the same enemy or we can spawn a random enemy from an array. So in this case, I'll make the script so that we can have both. Okay, let's start with the wait time. So we wait for some spawners, we wait some time and then enable them. Also, we'll say private, not public, private bool is active. So we know if it is active by default, it will be false. Okay. Also, we have spawn speed. We have a private spawn counter. By default, the counter is 0, so we start counting from 0. In update, we count time in that counter, so it's a spawn counter plus equal time delta time. So the time delta time is the time difference between frames. So in other words, we count time in this variable. And we also check if it's time to spawn. So if that counter is bigger than the spawn speed. So in that case, it's time to spawn. Also, we'll have an array of enemies, a public game object array, enemy prefabs, let's say. But I think we'll have two modes. One is we spawn the same enemy, and the other one is we spawn random enemies. Now this spawner will be in the top right corner somewhere. And then we need to know how many lines or paths are there for the enemies. So we also need a variable for that because we might have levels with a different amount of paths. Yeah. So let's say also integer number of paths. Now we want to spawn the enemies on a random path, regardless of if we spawn an enemy or the same type of enemy or multiple types. Let's also make a bool spawn type, so we know which type of spawn we use. And then we can say we can have two functions, one that spawns a specific enemy and another one that spawns a random enemy from this array of enemies. But if we spawn a specific enemy, we want to know which one it is. So we're also in the variable here. We'll say specific enemy, or let's say enemy index. The enemy index. So we can say void spawn enemy index. We first must find the position where we spawn it. Correspond it on a random path. So let's select the random path first. Okay, we have a random path now, and the distance between paths is 2 in units. In this case, so let's find the position, which will be a vector 3. So we say spawn position. So that will be the position that the spawner has. So transform. Wait, somebody sent me a message. No, nobody. Okay. So the spawn position of the enemy will be the position of of this spawner, so transform position plus or not plus. Wait, can we say vector 3 down? We can. Okay, so vector 3 down times 2, because the difference in in space between those paths is 2 units. So down times 2, and then this time times the random path. Okay, that will be the position. Now we can spawn our object. In this function, we spawn a specific enemy, which will use this index here, this index variable. So we say the enemy prefabs, right? Well, we don't even need an enemy index actually. We can delete that and just consider that the first one in the array is the one we spawned. So we say the first one here, and probably this in this case will not even have multiple enemies, which will be just one in that array. So this is what we spawn, the first enemy in the array, spawn it at the spawn position that calculated, and quaternary identity again means no rotation, so 0 0 0 on the rotation, and that's it. We can put now this function here, but we do use either this or the one that spawns a random enemy depending on the type of spawn. Let's make another one that spawns uh, random enemy. So the same logic, we find the spawn position, and then we have to create a random index in this case. So it will be between 0 and the length of that array. And here when we spawn one with a random index. Okay, so that's everything. And then here when it's time to spawn, so again, if it is spawn, depending on the type, we either spawn a specific enemy or a random enemy. So we have to check which type we have. So if spawn type is 0, we do the specific, we spawn the specific enemy, else spawn a random one from the array. Also, we have to reset the counter in here. And that should be everything. We can now test. Yeah, this should be everything. We might have an issue with where we put that spawner. Also, I don't know how many paths there are. I have to count that. I think it's 4, but I don't know. I have to count. Let's count it first. Let's see. 1, 2, wait. 1, 2, 3. Seems that there are 4, so I'll say 4 here. Oh, wait, we forgot about the enemy spawner script to our object. Okay. Path 4. We'll add for this one just one enemy. Okay, wait time. We'll give it some initial wait time, so the player has time to spawn some towers before these guys spawn. Let's see, like 3 seconds at least. No, 5 seconds. Spawn type 0, so that means we spawn a specific one, and speed, let's say 3. No, double click on that. Double click on that to go to its position. Should be somewhere that I don't know exactly where it should be, like here. Okay, let's see if it works. Okay, let's see. Okay. Yep, that seems to work correctly. Not really actually. Pretty sure that guy is not supposed to spawn there. Yes, I see the problem. Yes, this should not be there. This should be in the middle of the right here. Uh, I actually have to make a list of things we need to do in the game for the next time. Uh, so the wizard needs some audio effects. We need the background music. Uh, we need more types of enemies because we have some types of towers, but not enemies. This guy just sits there and wait. Um, I have to check the pivot of that guy actually, because I think there might be something. Yes, there is one issue with that. It's my bad. Uh, the sprite sort point is incorrect here. Let's first check the sprites, because the sprites should also have the pivot on the bottom, which they do not. Okay, so that's the one issue. That is one issue. Uh, let's see how we fix it. Maybe we can do it automatically. I don't know the size of this though. We have to do it by count actually. So we have 12. So 12 columns, one row. Then we change the pivot to bottom, uh, which is not perfect. Needs to be a bit higher than this. Now what we can do, we can copy this Y value here. Here we can create a custom pivot. So 0.5 on the X is correct, but we want this value here on the Y. That fixed it. Okay, we have that. We have to do the same for the other one. So I'll go to the prefab of that, select the sprite so we can find it faster. Okay, and we have to find the pivot on this as well. For this one, it's simple. It's exactly on the bottom. So we can select all of these. Well, excuse me one second. So we want to change the pivot of both animation, the idle and the run. In this case, it's exactly on the bottom, so that's easy. We just set it to bottom. Let's do the same for the run. I now have to go to the prefab of those enemies. Let's start with this guy. And you notice that the collider is placed incorrect because we changed the pivot, so that changes the position of the sprites. So that messes with the collider. First thing, we change the sprite went from center to pivot, same for the other one. And then we have to reposition the collider. Same for this guy. Okay. Uh, let's see how it gets spawned now. Um, let's see. I don't know. Okay, let's see. That does not work how it's supposed to work. Wait, I actually have to do it in another way because they get deleted too fast. I'll just place the guy that absorb damage and see uh, how it is positioned differently than the enemies. And that's one problem because these are supposed to touch the tower and damage it. Let's see where the problem is there. Okay, we have the towers. Oh wait, we do not have the tower tag. Maybe that is the problem. Let's see. So let's go to the specific behavior of that. Yes, it does check for towers, so that's the issue. But also it is positioned a bit differently than that guy. Uh, what happens if I put an archer here? Let's see if I can place it better. The small one. Okay. Also, the towers here do not have the tower tag. Which is actually good because we don't want those towers to be attacked while we try to place them. So we can fix this by going here in the game manager. If I can find the game manager. It is up here. When we change the tower layer, let's also change the tower attack. So attack equal to tower. That should work. And then that will be everything for today. I'll have to make a list of things that we need to do. And Mary, we can discuss afterwards if you want me to explain some basic stuff. Okay, let's test it one more time. Now this die should be damaged by those angry pigs. They die on contact and they deal some damage. Let's see. Oh, that's the one. I see. Yep, now that works. It does work now. Yes. However, that explosion there is not correct. That's Yes, that's a problem. Yes, that is a problem. Okay, we'll fix that and then we can stop for today. The issue is because now the center of the object is on the bottom. Wait, I need to see that one more time. Uh, okay, yeah, the center of that is on the bottom, so we have to spawn the center of the object. Okay, I see. So I have to go to the enemy script in here. We also want the middle of the object. Here we have to change some stuff. For example, the sound, not the sound effect. That we don't care about that. The visual effect here. For example, we do not spawn in the position of the enemy. We spawn it in the middle transform. That's one thing. Here as well. This stuff is correct here. Also, there's another issue with the archer here. Or not the archer necessarily, the archer arrow. So let's see, right now we spawn those. So when the arrow attack hits an enemy, the effect is spawned at the tip of the arrow, which should be okay. But for some reason, those are not placed correctly. Those effects. Okay, we'll fix this later. This is not that important. So we have to do the same thing that we did before, which is we have to create a transform as a child on the enemies that will represent the middle position. So same thing. Go here. Actually, I can duplicate the bottom one and just say this is the middle. Okay. Oh, this is also misplaced now. This is supposed to be here. Supposed to be here. This is also misplaced now because we changed the pivot. Okay, that should be good. Now let's place that transform on the script. I don't see why this is not working. I have to place it. Oh, never mind. Okay. There is an issue with the archers. I don't know why. Those visual effect on the collision are spawned at the incorrect position. Yes, but, sometimes they work correctly, sometimes they don't. That's interesting. Um, yeah, I can change the because I try to create a random position here for the effect by creating some by adding some offset both vertically and horizontally. This offset might be too big. Make it significantly smaller. Maybe that works. Let's see what there's this here. Collision sound. Oh, we don't care about sounds. Uh, and now I'll try it one more time, and then that will be everything. Next time I'll be prepared with a list of things. I just want to make sure the effect works. Looking at this, I'm not sure if it works or not. Yes, maybe even smaller than this, maybe. I don't know. Okay, I'll leave it like this. Uh, that is everything for today. I'll see you guys tomorrow.